Tuesday, December 17th, 2024, at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Burkholder?
Here.
Ms. McKee? Here.
Invocation, please.
Please, if you would stand and appreciate it. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive those who trespass against us, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? I'll second. Discussion.
Yes, I have a few questions. What is the update health and vision and reassign duties? These are very vague, unclear. Items should not be this vague or a surprise for a trustee, much less the public. That's not being transparent. The draft minutes have not been included in the agenda, nor are the bill payments. Again, for transparency's sake, while it's been provided to the board, we have a system that can provide these to the public, and they should be. I believe that any action items should be after the public comments. That's evident before some of the residents that, we don't want to hear from them, and that's not proper, not what I would like to see. And this is the second amended agenda. It shows a lack or unwillingness to plan and only adding items Mr. Burkholder wants. With that, I will move to add to new business a CODA busing discussion, a discussion and action on the zoning commission chair repeated refusal to follow Ohio revised code.
Let's do one at a time, Mr. Evans, because we don't need an omnibus amendment.
This is my motion. If you want to amend it, but refusal to follow Ohio revised code, the zoning definition change, and a quick discussion on employee Christmas lunch, Scannell and diligence lack of implementation, and we need a discussion on the portlet.
Is there a second to the amendment? To the motion to amend. Is there a second? I'll move to amend your, well, there's no second, so the motion fails for a lack of second. But I'll make the motion to add the CODA discussion because I do have some comments regarding that, and that would be under item J, under new business. CODA. Is there a second to my amendment? Second for discussion? Ms. McKee, do you have the floor?
Well, I'm not sure why we're adding CODA. CODA is not in Etna Township, so I don't know why there's even a discussion. But maybe you guys can enlighten me on that. I'm not aware of any except things that are coming through with Franklin County. Other than that, I have no idea, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, the purpose of the agenda and amendments is just to get it on and discuss. We should be able to discuss anything, but my request for the CODA busing discussion was after discovering Mr. Burkholder's statement to the zoning commission on November 12th that he is, or we are working cooperatively to get CODA into the county and thus the township. I am very concerned that this is being done without board authority, without board input, and most importantly, without public input. So that was my reason, but we also need to discuss, like I said, the other items that are actually more important, I think, timely, but apparently the other two trustees just want to ignore those.
I'll call the question on the amendment if there's no further discussion, please, on the amendment to the adoption of the agenda. So
Evans?
Yes,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
yes.
and I'd like to make an amendment to move the adoption of the meeting minutes and the presentation until after public comments.
Could you say that again, Mr. Evans?
I would like to move the presentation and the adoption of the meeting minutes until after public comments.
Is there a second to this amendment?
No, I don't have any comments.
That amendment dies for a lack of second. I'll make the motion to move public comments, the first public comments, to after the presentation from Chris Kirby and prior to the other items. Or I should say, after his presentation and adoption. No, I think public comments are fine where they are.
Yeah, that's
because-
where it is.
Yeah, that's where it is, so I'll withdraw that motion. Any more discussion on the adoption of the agenda as amended? I do have some discussion, Mr. Evans. First of all, the insurance, Mr. Evans, you've been handling all of that, so we have reached out to you to see if you had any additional documents to attach. I have talked with the township administrator as well, and so, do you wanna talk about, that's why we amended the agenda, but you didn't provide any documents regarding the insurance.
Number one, that is false, but you're having debate during adoption of the
No,
agenda on the
this is the
specific
discussion.
item. Well, is it not on the agenda? Now, the administrator said that vague description of update health and vision insurance is about the spousal carve-out. However, that's very unclear. Is that about the spousal carve-out? Or not?
No, that's why we added the insurance, about the health insurance.
So it is about it.
Three discussions, the dental and the vision, which I believe you have information that you're gonna present tonight. And the second is about the spousal reimbursement for health insurance, correct?
So, no, I don't know. You were the one that put it on here and was so vague that neither I nor the administrator knew. The administrator doesn't even know what reassigned duties is. And that shows that you're controlling this agenda without her input. No person on this board or the public should be unaware of what's going to be discussed or be able to be prepared. So my question is the update health inclusive of the issue that I've been trying to get addressed about the spousal carve-out?
Yes, it is, and so you're aware of the spousal carve-out, right?
Very much so, because I tried to get it through last meeting and you shut me down,
Did you present-
adjourned, and forced everybody out of the hall.
Did you provide documents for that?
I did to the administrator.
Okay, and that's what we have here, is this, which.
No, there's additional documents.
Okay, well, I haven't seen those, but I will, since you have a question and you have personally attacked me, not only here, but on Facebook, I'm gonna read from Mark Evans. This is a,
Out of order, this is
this,
not the
no,
adoption of the
this is,
agenda.
you've had a question about the adoption of the agenda and why an item is on here. This was dated on November 28th, 2024 at 8 a.m. from Mark Evans to Holly with a number of agenda items you wanted, Mr. Evans. And you put on here, I believe we need a discussion on the continued failure of the president and the need to reassign duties due to a complete lack of oversight and follow-through. You wanted it on this agenda, Mr. Evans. It's right from your own email. I have it here and I can provide you a copy because you obviously don't read your own emails.
And that was for the December 3rd meeting, which you ignored. So how do I know that that is what in reference you're adding this to? Because there was zero communication. And again, even the administrator who you say you're working hand in hand with doesn't know and didn't know, and I can show you the text. So it is clear you are just doing what you want to do regardless of the administrator.
That's not true, Mr. Evans. The administrator's been out on medical, and you were advised that things that didn't get on the December 3rd, that this agenda would be loaded up with a lot of things that you complained complained about that weren't being addressed, and that's why they're on here. So anyways, that's your email, and I'll call the question for adoption of the agenda. But I want that on the record, that that was because of you, Mr. Evans.
And I want it on the record that you ignored it and failed to communicate.
We're well aware of your thoughts on that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Is there a motion to adopt the September 3rd, 2024 regular meeting minutes? Also moved. Is there a second? Discussion?
Yeah, once again, these are provided on 12/12. These are 3.5 months old on a multi-hour meeting, 16 pages printed out. How are we supposed to go through it and accurately ensure that it's correct? So, on that, I move to table to allow proper time to review.
Is there a second to the motion to table? Hearing none, the motion fails. I've reviewed this minutes and made some corrections, got them to the clerk. Sorry you don't have the time, Mr. Evans. Do you have anything, Ms. McKee, to say on these?
I do have a question on that contention. So is the minutes being withheld until you review them? And because there were not corrected minutes sent out. So how is that process going? Because we did receive a second September 3rd email, but I was told they were the same as the first.
They were sent out by mistake twice,
No, but I'm saying,
on September 3rd.
but I don't understand Mr. Burkholder saying he received it, he made corrections. I haven't seen any corrections. So are the minutes being withheld until you correct it?
No.
And then we receive, because
No.
should we have received a corrected minutes?
The minutes are sent to all the trustees at one time.
Okay.
Nothing goes to Burkholder and then everybody else. So
where is this corrected?
I haven't sent those out.
So then what are we
And
voting
I-
on? So we're voting on the uncorrected or the corrected?
I've made your correction that you emailed me this afternoon.
So your
On
correction,
September
my
3rd.
corrections are in there. Mr. Evans.
But we're not talking about September, we're not
We are
talking about
September 3rd.
September.
The last time when you made the corrections that you,
Yeah.
correct.
But what I'm unclear on, and it doesn't make sense, is what are we voting on then? If Burkholder's corrections weren't submitted to everybody and in front of this board, are we not approving the uncorrected minutes? Or for him to do that, I don't understand, Ms. McKee then cannot have
Did you
the
provide a
corrected
corrected
minutes.
version to
I
them?
don't believe I did, but the only corrections that Burkholder had were type errors where Jackie's last name was misspelled. Those were the only corrections
So
he
there
had in
was
that
no
set.
substantive.
But what I'm saying is,
I
and this
understand
happened
what you're saying.
before,
I know what you're saying.
and that it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't.
I know your accusations, but.
No, it's not accusations.
I'm gonna call
It's
the question on the
true.
adoption of the minutes.
Ms. Burkle, you're on
Roll call,
order.
please.
Robert's rules, when a member has the floor, you cannot call the question.
We're not gonna. you're not gonna be-
17-8, okay?
Yeah, fine.
I have a legitimate concern about this, that it's not being supervised, so if you made corrections and you did not see those redistributed to everybody, you should know that we don't have it. It's the same thing as last time.
Well, whatever you say. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes, because I'm only voting on the fact that you made those changes, which was from Mr. Evans. Those other ones were typo errors, it's not a, major, but you fixed them. So, okay, makes sense.
Now, I will move to table is there a motion to adopt the September 17th, 2024 meeting minutes?
Is that September 7th?
Yes.
No.
the,
Well, if it's a pleasure of the board, I'll actually move the table the 17th, the November 19th, and the December 3rd. What we're trying to do, Mr. Evans, is there a second to that tabling of those minutes?
I'll second the table so we can move on to
Yeah.
the next topic. We need to move on.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
no.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
The reason I want to table those is we have been working diligently. These meetings are long. We've been trying to catch up. We've actually used our temporary employee to try to get these caught up. we do wanna go through them and make sure they're correct on the details. So we're trying to get these cleared up by the end of the year. So-
Can I ask you, you just attacked me in the last meeting saying I must not have the time to do it, and then you tabled 3 more minutes.
That's correct.
You are very disingenuous, sir.
Well, I know how you feel, so let's move on. We now have a presentation by Chris Kirk. Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Mr. Evans,
To table all.
to table the rest of them?
Do we vote?
Yes, that's what you know.
We have,
We just voted. I said no, they said
She
yes.
said yes.
I didn't hear that, sorry. Carry on.
It's all right.
I think Freddie scared us.
Yeah.
Mr. Kirby, is the consultant, the fiscal officer consultant we hired, and I will turn it over now to the fiscal officer and to Mr. Kirby, for his presentation, and then we have some action items to follow there.
Thank you.
What I gave and presented to the fiscal officer was a spreadsheet that showed an estimated or a temporary budget for 2020. I can hear you.
We can't hear, they can't hear you.
Okay, all right, I can hear you.
Thank you.
What I submitted to the fiscal officer was a temporary appropriations budget for 2025. It's only for anywhere between 30 and 50% of each fund code. The reason for that is there's a lot more information we need to put together to get the annual budget, which is due on March 31st. We will be doing that a lot quicker than March 31st though. We want to make sure we have a way of presenting this at least for 3 votes, okay? Because that's the proper way of going. I took the liberty of creating the resolution that comes straight out of the Ohio Township Handbook, and also sent that with the information. The total percentage right now is at 3.4 million. I estimate that to be closer to 11 or 12 before the end of the year, before the final budget is complete. And again, this resolution is generated per word by word from the Ohio Township Handbook.
I do have a few questions.
Go ahead.
We discussed some errors in the last meeting in the budget workshop that were not corrected. Was that on purpose, or say, like the administrator's salary is underrepresented? It's still at 130 when it's 155. I know it'll work, but having correct numbers to then
This is the
justify, I would
temporary.
expect at least that be corrected. Were there any corrections made or not?
There was a few, especially like on the park. I put some money in there for the park, for the Pike Street, and for some equipment under, for general, for the maintenance groups. Basically, other than that, that's all I had information on that I could remember. I wrote it down. Parks, looking, Park Drive, state capital budget. We're looking at the JEDs to see what the true revenue, final revenue will be at the end of this year. And that way we can get an accurate count for the annual budget.
Well, I received in the JED report with their budget for next year, which I'm assuming shows the projections they're doing. Should we be using their projections?
We will on the annual budget, the final budget, yes.
Okay, and then there's things in here like the trash payment still, I don't know, was anybody for that, or is that just left in there because it was?
That was left in there, and then if it's not gonna happen, it'll go away in the annual budget.
Okay, then my other question is too, regarding the resources in, do you have a specific section, I haven't seen it, for the resources in, because again, our salaries are based on that. So we're gonna have a trustee payment and fiscal officer January 1st. So we don't wanna overpay ourselves if it's under, or is there a spot that shows the resources are over 10 million?
based on the actual of what you received this year. And you're talking about receipt or actual, I thought you was based on the appropriations, the salary.
At the estimated resources, I believe, aren't our salaries tied to the resources carryover, what revenue we're expected in, and that based on Ohio Revised Code and the chart and that. I mean, if we don't have, I don't think it's been monitored, the second half of the year. I just wanna make sure with the declining revenues and that we didn't fall under the 10 million, which required us to, because it's about a $5,000 difference.
You will see a major increase on your annual appropriations budget to probably 11 to 12 million.
For expenditures.
For expenditures, yeah.
Correct, but I'm talking about,
But
our salaries based on the resources coming in and carryover, right?
Well, you have to have that in order to do those appropriations. You wouldn't be able to do it, you can't go in the negative. So I'm saying, yes, you'll have all those resources.
But what's our estimated revenue resources now for the pay on 1/1? I just don't see that anywhere. Prior, the last 2 years, we did, there was just a spreadsheet of here's the judge, here's, carryover, here's, the road tax, here's.
On your spreadsheet alone, just for the appropriations for the general fund, at the last page, it says estimated revenue 2.0878 million. Right, and your carryover is estimated this year alone is at 5.8 million. So right there, you're looking at almost $7.9 million real quick, just in the general fund.
But that's still 2.1 short of what our current pay is based. So I'm a little unsure why we can't have and we've gone through this with our prior fiscal officer, and Mr. Burkholder was even present for the beginning of this year's. It's just stated, and I'm a little hesitant when we can't just see all the expected revenue to see what's coming in.
At the end of each fund that's on that Excel spreadsheet, you'll see what the total leftover is going to be. But again, like your motor vehicle license, you're looking at 150,000. Your gasoline tax for the year, you're looking at 764,000. You're going to be way over than me.
I'd be more comfortable, and I'm not sure about the other board members, to actually see it in a spreadsheet.
It is on a spreadsheet, sir. It's right on the
In line after, not
For each
mentally
fund,
kind of throwing.
for each fund, it is on the spreadsheet. You take a look at the last page of each spreadsheet, it's there.
So we've got to separately calculate that to.
I think he's looking at.
What I'm saying is,
If
can
you
we
want
get a
a great
spreadsheet to say, this is all the revenue?
I do not have that, I just based it on each fund with the appropriations.
Our budget, it's kind of a misnomer. What it is, a certificate of estimated resource, which is carryover, actual carryover from the previous year, plus what you estimate as revenues coming in. Now, you don't have to spend all that, and we don't, and you don't have to appropriate all of it, but our salaries and the fiscal officer's salary is based on the size of that estimated resource. So if it's over 10 million, we make more than if it's under 10 million. There's various categories. Breakoffs, I think the other one might be at 7 million, 7.5 million or something, yeah, something like that. So, well, I'm pretty confident, if there's more detail we need, then we do need to provide it to the board. I'm in favor of adopting this temporary budget, and that'll give us time to put, but I agree with Mr. Evans that we need to know that because our first pay, or at least have our estimate over 10 million by our first pay on January 1.
Right.
So that and by the way, there is apparently gonna be an increase on township, or at least there's legislation, there's an automatic increase that's already been approved for township trustees and the fiscal officer. But I learned last night at a meeting that there could be some omnibus, or as they call it, the Christmas tree legislation that the legislators pass at the end of the year. There may be a pay raise, I think, for county officials, state officials, or at least the legislature, and possibly for the township trustees too.
Coming out of lame duck.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so I guess we'll have to get that information to the fiscal officer, so.
My question is if, and I agree, as you say, we need that information before January 1st. This is our last meeting of the month, and you're gonna approve this without knowing what the resources are, and
Well, Mr. Evans, I have talked to the administrator, and she said on various things, and why we don't like to have a special meeting, if there's any cleanup work or housekeeping work that we need to do by the end of the year, I will remind that, one of the problems we had in the previous years, Mr. Evans, is that there was a problem when the temporary budget or permanent budget wasn't adopted prior to the first of the year, and that created some heartache for the fiscal officer and others, so.
right, but this is basic stuff that was known, and I believe I brought it up at the budget meeting on the 10th.
I understand, but the horse is already dead. You've beaten it.
No, but how many horses are you gonna kill?
So, any other questions, Ms.
No, I
McKee?
feel comfortable with this, appropriation, temporary budget, so I just was going over it, I'm a person that likes to pay a lot of attention to numbers, so, yeah, it looks really good. I'm comfortable with it, I think we should, go ahead and move forward with this, and
We will. Let's, since we have this in this order, let's talk about the ARPA funds first, and we'll pass that resolution, or at least we'll bring it to the floor for passage, and then we'll do the budget, since we've gotten the presentation now, so. Mr. Kirby, on the ARPA funds, and I know there's been questions about that we need to appropriate the remaining funds prior to the end of the year, is that correct?
Yes, all ARPA funds have to be appropriated, don't have to be spent, but they do have to be appropriated prior to December 31st of this year. And you have until the end of next year to actually spend them. Now, one correction we want to make is the UEN balance for the ARPA fund and that separate bank account that was created did not match. So what we want to do is move and close out the one bank account for 85,000 plus, put it into the regular general account, or master account, whatever you want to call it, okay? So that they can balance up. Everything will balance completely then. Again, you're going to spend that money in the first quarter of next year, period. You're going to $85,000 is all you're going to have left of, I don't know how much you got originally, but I'm sure it's more than I got in South Zanesville, 25,000.
so moving that to the general fund is what we are.
Well, the main bank account, really, it's not the general account. It's still going to be in UAN under the ARPA money. It's just going to be from two bank accounts, it's going to go to one. I'm not quite sure why there was two bank accounts to begin with. I'm not quite sure why. It doesn't require that. It did not require that.
I'm not sure who opened it up, but I know the problem, the two fiscal officers prior, he was tracking the ARPA funds on a spreadsheet and not in UAN. So there's been a lot of cleanup in that, but my question is, you mentioned 80-some thousand. Is there gonna be a transfer or proposal to transfer that 85,000 later, or?
In this meeting, they're going to ask that question, yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's not on the agenda, or wasn't provided to the board, so I was just.
Do you have the resolution on the ARPA funds?
Yeah, we have the resolution to,
Are you talking about 065?
Yeah, well, right now I've got a resolution 2024-065.
Yes.
It was to correct, what happened originally is the $120-some thousand that was originally appropriated toward this fund, if you do not amend that appropriation, you're gonna have to pay back $49,611 back to the federal government. I don't think anybody wants to do that. That's why this resolution was created, to correct that issue. When you started the year out, there was actually $195,000 in the ARPA money, and only 120-some, or somewhere around that, 120, 130,000 was actually appropriated. So we gotta appropriate, and that's what this resolution does, it helps you appropriate the rest of it, so you don't lose it.
Now, was the prior resolution that appropriated the funds for $465,000 or whatever it was ever found? Because I know we haven't been able to find a lot of resolutions.
I'm going with what was on the appropriations at the beginning of this year, which had to be passed in your annual budget or your temporary budget from last
Okay.
year.
If it was appropriated twice, is there any impact? Because again, the prior fiscal officer, and I remember that we did appropriate those funds. Apparently they're on Ms. Catuno's laptop, but she can't access them, maybe still. Is there any impact of appropriating twice?
In this case, there will not be, because it was only appropriated one time, it was only be appropriated one time.
But through resolution?
With this resolution, that way you can balance out, I don't wanna see you guys lose money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'm saying if the resolution previously appropriated all the funds for this year, that doesn't have a negative impact, right?
it did not appropriate 100%, it was short.
And you said that amount was 48?
It's 49, 611, something, it was the difference,
49, 611, 51. You should have it in the packet.
I'm doing something on my spreadsheet.
Okay.
I'm just so concerned that we can't find the prior resolution or other resolutions. And actually, I understand the input in UAN, but there could have been an error, but if the board action did it.
I don't know your past resolutions, I didn't see.
That's what I would hope would be provided. Because it seems like we're doing actions without all the information, and that's my concern.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2024-065?
So moved.
I'll second. Further discussion?
No, I just remain concerned about acting without all the information.
So noted. Roll call, please.
Mr. Owens?
No,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2024-064, the Etna Township 2025 temporary budget?
I'll move.
I'll second that motion. Discussion on the resolution regarding the temporary budget for 2025?
now there's two documents here listed. Oh, okay, one's just the spreadsheet.
Correct. Hearing any discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Temporary budget passes, and we'll be working with the fiscal officer and Chris Kirby to get everything we need for the final budget, final appropriation. Moving on to public comments. Anyone has anything you'd like to comment on here tonight? You've got 3 minutes. Please come to the podium. Is that microphone on? And state your name and address. You've got 3 minutes, and please direct your remarks to the board.
Jeff Hall, 79 Report. I don't see on the agenda the public safety issue with soliciting. Ask when that will be addressed.
That's a good question. The reason it's not on there, we did refer that to our zoning department, and we're gonna have to check with the prosecutor. Townships are a little bit different than cities are, and see what the process would be for a township if that would go into zoning. So I'll open it up. I don't know if you have any comments on that or not.
I previously provided that information. It's just ORC, we do a resolution and move forward. Same thing as installing speed humps in neighborhoods, talked about before. There's just a lot of things not addressed. And hopefully we can address it, but I'm not there.
Sooner the better, please.
Well, would that, does that prohibit solicitation or require registration?
Requires registration, lists solicitors to get the no-knock list. It does allow enforcement and other items. I would have hoped you would have looked into it. but apparently not.
Well, let me just say this, there is under the law, under the Supreme Court, it does not prevent, politicians or people knocking on your door for, you're not soliciting, you're knocking on the door to give some kind of, say you're just giving away a card to say, I'm running for an office. I'll use that for example. That doesn't prohibit that. But back to what you were saying, it does prohibit solicitation. So I understand it. Reynoldsburg does it. They have a real strict, no solicitation in Reynoldsburg, but it doesn't prevent individuals going to your door. Now, if you do no trespassing sign, that's a little bit different. So that may be another way we can.
We need to give the resources to the officers to enforce something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Something.
Yeah.
I'll put up whatever signs necessary.
Okay.
But when I call the police, they can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, they need to be able to do something. So you're in the way of making that happen.
And I think you bring up a good point too, that you can enact it, but then it is about the enforcement and having the resources and what is the fee amount going to be, and that we establish that. So I think you're right as far as the enforcement. It's no good if you can't enforce it and if there isn't some kind of a penalty.
But if we don't act, it goes nowhere.
Well, we understand that, Mr. Evans.
Since that kind of came up, we need more resources. Since we're talking about resources, we need more police here, our sheriffs. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Now we'll actually step and speak as a resident.
Mr. Evans, you're not allowed to do that.
I am, I've done it before.
I've already-
Mr. Walters has done it before, it is
You're
my
not allowed
right
to do
as
that, Mr.
a,
Evans.
I've already,
it is my right as a citizen.
let me just clarify.
So, hold on. Mark
I've
Evans,
already
91
talked to
North
the,
Church
now
Road.
just let me finish, Mr. Evans, before I
This is
recognize.
public comments.
I'm
This
going
is-
to treat you like any other resident now, but let me finish to clarify, because Ms. McKee had a question here. I did talk to the administrator, and she said that you were gonna talk as a resident. And, cause you constantly complain that you can't go on and on and on, so you're gonna get 3 minutes. And that's what you'll get, and then you go ahead, so I'm not gonna sit here all night and argue about this.
I am speaking as a resident because Mr. Burkholder and Ms. McKee routinely silence any truth spoken on the board. Let's talk about the employee insurance critical concern that finally we're addressing today. He and Ms. McKee refused to allow discussion at our last regular meeting. Why would you do that? This is negatively affecting our employees and their spouses. It's time sensitive. You two adjourned the meeting to shut down the concerns and ordered people out of the hall. That's not right. There's one trustee here that cares about the employees, it's not you two. Let's talk about the zoning commission chair's failure to follow the law. September 24th motion to approve the zoning change. Ohio Revised Code states 5 days to transmit it to the county and 20 to 40 days for a public hearing. It's not the law, it's the law, not a suggestion. It was willfully ignored repeatedly. Zoning Commission Chair McIntyre refused to address the issue and actually smiled and smirked as I spoke on the issue. Still no action, still no oversight, still no accountability. Mr. Olson of the Zoning Commission and Mr. Holloway of the County Commission reiterated the same requirements and concerns. Let's go on to busing. Glad we're going to be talking about that. It was shocking to find Ms. Burkholder is working cooperatively to bring in code of busing. That was found in the November 12th draft minutes of Zoning Commission, his own words. No board authority, no public input. We're on day 351 of Mr. Burkholder's day 1 agenda. We have no water district accountability, locked, no accountability for the energy aggregator trouble, no progress on Scanell quality life impacts to Lynn's Road residents. You actually lied on this one to the board and residents and got caught. No transparency, no organization. Mr. Burkholder, you were sent the annexation agreement more than 4 times and still didn't have it. It's ridiculous. Let's talk about diligent. You interfered with the proper implementation of a $8,000 a year subscription service. Mr. Burkle, you gleefully admit to having signed into once after numerous requests since June. Minutes are not being properly loaded into the system. You prevented a proper rollout. The system is not being used as designed. What's going on here? We're a year in and nothing's being done. All these requests are just being ignored. So you both betrayed the residents and failed in most every aspect. The residents deserve better.
We do.
Very good. Anybody else? 3 minutes?
You implemented diligent, Mark Evans.
Well, I understand.
You.
I'm trying to keep this meeting as professional and moving along, and so, but I appreciate your comments. State your name and address, and I haven't started the timer yet, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Alicia Zacher, 79 Trail East. You know, I have watched the last couple of meetings. The November 19th meeting, unbelievable. I couldn't believe some of the things that you, Mark Evans, have done in the past, and you have just gone to the extreme. You're going to kick and scream all the way to election time. We are sick of it. We're sick of it. And I am no fan I never voted for anybody up on this board. But this is my township, I pay taxes, you work for me and the citizens out here. Your behavior is disgusting. You get on Facebook and you do nothing but bash Gary, including today. Okay, you picked him. You ran with him. You picked her. You ran with her. You guys have all been up here and you have been the leader of this nightmare. And then you get on Facebook and don't answer my question that I asked you. Did you sign in to Julie Varian's account?
I have my own access.
Did you sign in?
I have my
Using her
own
password?
access.
Well,
I
somebody
know.
used her password, she's been gone a year. Is it your contention she did? I mean, really, you have no business in those funds, so you really shouldn't be in it. You're trashing our fiscal officer, going onto Tom Susie page and bad-mouthing our fiscal officer. You're a detriment to our township. You're an embarrassment.
So you don't think we should have bank
Please don't
statements
ask me
provided?
any questions
Give me
that are not my
time.
Oh, I
time.
thought this was a discussion.
It's not, you're not
Okay.
answering my question, are you? Did you sign on under Julie Varian's password?
I have my own access.
Did you sign on,
I
sir?
have my own
That's what I
access.
thought. On the 19th, you complained about all of the errors in the minutes, and you complained about Mr. Burkholder and Ms. McKee. And then you said that you didn't have time because you're dealing with the fire board. You've complained quite a bit, but you have all, excuse me, please stop interrupting me. Could you watch my time, sir?
Yes. Yeah.
He complains about the fire board all the time and all the work he has to do. He can't edit the minutes. One of the things that I think that this board needs to really take a look at is removing him from that fire board so that he can have all the time needed to deal with this township's needs. We are the priority. And I don't really feel that if he has all the time in the world to get on Facebook and bash everybody, including myself, whatever, I think that he should maybe get off the fire board and focus only on this township and the needs we have, including the rusty door or the Wi-Fi or anything else. But, and then you say, well, the administrator told me this, and Gary says the administrator told me this, and you guys, there is no administrator. The last one we had's gone, and now we don't have one here. I don't know the medical reasons, but I do know that we don't have one here, and it's he say, she say.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I just hope that, starting the new year, during the organizational meeting, you can please consider taking that responsibility from him so that he can focus on the needs of this township. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to quickly respond that when I caught up the meeting minutes for us, and then they got back to months and months behind, and are thrown days before a meeting all at once to review it, is not possible and logical. And I will actually be honest and say, if I didn't have time, I will not lie and say, oh, I reviewed them and there's 50
Should I
errors
get back
in
up
there.
to Mr.
So-
Burkholder?
No,
Well, that's
he
enough,
responds, I
that's
can
enough,
respond.
Mr. Evans. You continue to repeat yourself meeting after meeting on the same thing.
Mr. Burkholder,
Mr.
you
Hanson,
respond to everybody,
you
when
are-
you want to-
Mr.
and that's why I have to speak
Mr.
for public
Hanson,
comments.
Mr. Hanson, I'll let you state your name too and your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Very entertaining. John Hanson, 51 Ridgewood Drive, Etna, Ohio. First of all, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I believe we need continued prayers for our township administrator, Susan Betzel, and her family.
Yes.
Along the lines of what Alicia was talking about, Mr. Evans, several meetings ago, while you were disparaging Jackie over the UAN, you said, when Julie and I were doing it, that's not how we did it. Words to that effect. There's videotape there. That may even be one of them that you posted, that you actually finished and posted without comments. The good people of Etna have 3 yes or no questions. Have you ever used Julie Varian's credentials to sign on to the UAN?
I've already addressed this.
No, it's
Answer
a
the
yes or
question.
no, and we assume
No,
your evasiveness is a yes.
no, it's not.
So you take the 5th?
No, I'm not like Andrew King. Please.
Well, bashing the judge is always great. Did you on November 1st, 2024, use Julie's credentials to access bank records at Park National Bank?
Already explained, I have my own access, and employees were very helpful to show Ms. Coutinho's lie.
So are you saying that your access is Julie's credentials?
That is not what I said.
That's what it sounds like, sir.
No.
Well, you explained on one of your,
Employee, bank employee, they were very helpful to show that Ms. Coutinho lied, saying her failure to pay the employees was the bank's
I'm
fault.
gonna ask that the audience,
Yes.
if you have comments rather than this back and forth, go ahead, Mr. Hanson, so you have about
And
a
then,
minute.
number 3, is this progressive? Would Julie Varian's story differ from yours?
I don't speak for anybody.
You seem to speak for everyone here all the time, as a resident, as a trustee.
I speak for myself and the truth, and when I say people lied, I can prove it.
Okay. You have about 30 seconds, sir.
Since you publicly stated in meetings and emails, as well as on Facebook, that the recordings you made of the executive sessions are public records, why do you need a legal opinion before releasing them? Each individual public official has a duty and ability to the township to respond to requests for their records and possession. Why have you still not produced the recordings? You seem to be able to post on Facebook any email you feel vindicates you. Nor have you produced the unedited version of the August 6th attack on the township where you tried to take over everything. Nor have you fulfilled any of our requests since May, and such as those related to your hand-picked BCA board. After driving out the entire board, you single-handedly drove out all the employees with your bullying, and the BCA with your interference, and then blamed it all on Burkholder when you and he operated in tandem. Now you are attacking the zoning commission president and his board. Now, if I haven't already made the request in writing, I am officially making a public record request for a list of all outstanding requests for 2024. And then at least we'll know that you have a list of them. I thank you. I look forward to your Facebook rant.
And I'd like to quickly reply that I am not blocking any records being released. Mr. Burkholder is, because it goes through the prosecutor, and he has failed repeatedly to bring that to a board to get through. So Mr. Burkholder is withholding it. I follow the law, and if the prosecutor states release it in full or edited of the prohibited information, we'll do it. But it requires Mr. Burkholder, who controls this board, to do it.
You're Mr. Upright Transparency. Just do it.
I follow the law, sir. I'm a member of a board, not an individual.
That's enough. Anyone else at this time? Let's move along.
You're not an individual.
You'll have
How
3
convenient.
minutes, sir.
A few minutes ago you were, now you're back to that.
Chuck Bundy, 10254 Tollgate Road. I understand that there's some talk about bringing Codabus out to Etna. And I'm just, I don't know, I'm not sure why we need that. And I just like to go on record as saying, I'd rather not have it. That's all.
Thank you, sir. And I'll, under that discussion, I don't know if you got some of the materials that I handed out, but we'll have a clarification on that. I know that's been put out there by Mr. Evans on Facebook, but I think it's due a clarification, and that's why I added it to the agenda. Sir, you're next.
Steve Sly, 1372 Londondale Parkway. So I really wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but after the Bash Gary Burkholder session, I figured I'd get up and say something. So before Mark Evans comments, and I'm sure he's gonna say, well, you campaigned against Gary last year. You know, that election was less about Gary Burkholder and more about you. And I'm sorry you were hurt because you got played for 9 months in that election and said all kinds of things in text messages that I have no problem sharing with people, where you name called everybody. You were ready to target the former administrator before she even took her position in the township. So, you know, this transparency, you know, well, let's be transparent, Mark. Let's put all of our messages out. I have no problem. You put all yours out, I'll put all of mine out. Let's just see if that back and forth exchange matches each other, because I have no problem doing that. Yeah, I think I'd love to see Casey Perkins' reaction on the comments you made about her over with Southwest Looking Schools. Yeah, let's go back to that one conversation where you referenced her. You know, the conversations that you had about Ms. McGee. Conversations you had about a fiscal officer who had not even yet won her election. You were already making plans to go after her on day one, so let's share that conversation. And again, there's a slew of them, because you allowed yourself to get played by the person who was dead set against you for over a year, but yet you opened the keys of the kingdom after about 30 days of conversation. You know, and now you don't want to take ownership of that. But let's go back on Gary Burkholder, because again, you want to say that you were against Gary Burkholder. Well, that was less about Gary Burkholder, it was more about you. If you were to factor in that election in 2023, I would have been out pounding Gary Burkholder signs into the ground, because, you know, Gary Burkholder will testify to this. I backed him before when he ran for office in Licking County, when he ran for county commissioner. I've never had anything bad to say about Gary Burkholder prior to you trying to turn him into your direction. Gary Burkholder, you know, he was a trustee in Etna. You know, people can agree, disagree, but you know what? In my opinion, he came in, he did a professional job. You're not always going to agree 100% with everybody that is in that elected position, but you know, I thought he did, you know, an admirable job. Gary, you know, we could sit back and look at 30 years of people that have been either in that old building down the road or in this building now, and I can tell you right now, this is the most chaotic individual that has ever served as a trustee in Etna Township. We're talking about people like Carol Coswell and some of the others in the past that, you know, people would look at and say, are you crazy? How did this person become a trustee? Match her up against him and she wins the award of the year. You talk about transparency at every level, but yet you don't answer people's questions tonight. I'm not sure where the
30
transparency
seconds.
is. I'm not sure where the transparency is in that. You sit here and you say that you're working for the residents, but yet I don't see this flood of people coming to your defense. I don't see this flood of people on Facebook coming to your defense. All I see is angry rant after angry rant after angry rant. And one thing Ms. Acker said is correct. You ran with her, you turned on her. You ran with him, you turned on him. And I'm sure in 2025, you'll find some other sucker to run with you. And if they somehow get elected, which I don't think they will, but if they do, you'll turn on them if you get elected. But I'm not sure if it happens.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment on that. This is from the individual who stole my pictures of the cookie log
You off my page. I don't know.
and then claimed I called you to
You
apologize.
stole my picture.
Show your call
You
log.
did.
You can't.
You did. You know, admit it, Mark. Stop lying.
You
Just
have
stop lying
no
to people.
credibility.
Mr. Burkholder, are we in a one-on-one? Should I get back to the podium?
You admitted
Should we get back to the
deceitful
podium?
to
Should we
take
get
his
back to the podium,
campaign.
Mr. Burkholder?
Mr. Evans.
He is a born liar for 3 years.
Let me just say that if you don't get your 3 minutes here, be a second opportunity for 2 minutes at the end. Mr. Evans will have his comments, I'm sure, under trustee comments as well. Is there anyone else at this time that would like to make a comment?
I've been told not to sit here and
You might be prohibited from using my name. I think it's been overused. If you so feel that you have to, feel free to do so.
He's an excavator, he'll dig up something.
Matthew Rogers, 360 Buffalo Road. Good to see everyone again. I can't believe I missed this. I mean, it's good to see that some things never change. I walked in this room with a lot of positivity, to see, Jackie and her role, see Chris, how I've worked with Chris since back in '05. It was great seeing him here. Great resource we have, and that's the thing. Speaking of trustees, there's no one name to be used because it's one trustee board. And that's how it needs to, that's what needs to be remembered going into the new year. It's going to be an election year, it's going to be a lot of this, that, this person. It doesn't matter, it's what the board does, and the board works by the majority. Not always agreeable, but that's how it is. But one thing that this is kind of near and dear to me. I saw the Facebook rant about, CODA's coming to Etna. And, it's interesting. 2 pages of minutes from a zoning meeting. CODA was mentioned one time. I couldn't even find it when I read through there. I had to search to find it in there. And I just think we all need to pause and think of it differently. Because I don't want CODA here either. But we do need better transit out here. And I think it's forgotten that this county has a great transit system. Now mostly serves as NERC, and it's mostly demand response still, but that's because COVID put a lot of bearings on what they could do. But that board is working on growing out, and we need to find avenues to get it here. We've got, there are jobs here people can't get to. Anyone who lives anywhere near Amazon, if it ain't the trucks running you off the road, it's all the employees coming in that you can't even get out of your house to get to work. We need a better way for them to get here. And other employers in the area need a way to get quality workers who might not have a car. I'm fortunate that our company, we buy crew cab trucks for every one of our, because one driver and 4 people who, some of those trucks have people that don't have cars or licenses, and that's how we get them to our job. We're fortunate to have that, others don't. So I think we need to stop focusing on the word CODA because it's a horrible word. Anyone who's ever been around the city, been around it, it's horrible. But think of it in the terms of quality transit. We have it already in Licking County. We need to expand on it. And as much as I hate the fact that will involve CODA, it's going to happen because CODA put their assistant director as the director of county transit. But we need to control how it is and just not turn our nose at it. We need to work forward on that in the new year. So, thank you everyone. It was great to see everyone.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time? Great. Okay, we got we don't have a lot on the administrator's report as it's been reported. She's been out on medical. I have infrequent contact with her to try to get updates and to try to keep the township moving forward. But we do have a road repair that we have in front of us tonight. Talking with our road superintendent, there are a couple curbs and everything. He's been trying, I think, for maybe a couple of months or everything to try to get this, to get a quote on this, and this is from the Paul Brown Concrete Incorporated. And so it's $3,500 in labor, and it relates to material that we need on a drive approach. There's photographs as well. So I will move to authorize the payment or the authorization to spend up to $3,500 with Paul Brown Concrete Inc. in Thornville, Ohio. Is there a second to the motion? And then I have discussion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Evans. Discussion, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Is this needed right now? Does any work during the inclement weather just can be problematic? And then the other question is, why weren't there more bids sought on this? I mean, and this isn't something that just came up in emergency. I would think that just handing it out to one, I don't know, have they done work before? Because I know Mr. Waddle's done some, I think culvert repair, and I think there's other vendors. Why this vendor?
I do not know Mr. Evans. This was brought to me by the road superintendent. I don't know if you've had any conversations with him or not since you've been working with the roads, but you're more than welcome to talk directly to.
No, the only conversation I have was Mr. Copley's concern that it wasn't on the agenda before and that it be addressed, but otherwise I was not provided any of this information until, I think it was today.
That's correct.
So,
He wanted to try to get this done before the end of the year, so I said I'll bring it to the board, and it'll be the board's discretion. If you don't want to vote on it, fine, but there is, ice is pooling in one of these locations, and if you look at the roadway, you can tell that the photographs pretty much tell the story. The one catch basin right there coming off of Trail Boulevard is beginning to sink down there and disintegrating, so I took the recommendation and the advice of the road superintendent and said I'd be more than happy to bring it to the board for consideration. Beyond that,
Yeah, I know Bubba has had this happen before, I think down on Buttonbush, so he's familiar with this kind of work. So he's experienced in this. I do have the same question Mr. Evans asked, how did we come up with this particular company? And I know I tried to, put together a resolution with the board, but it never happened. If we do anything over 5,000, we should have several bids, but this is, we didn't pass it, so I guess it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. But I know Bubba has, experienced the same, kind of, repair down on Buttonbush, so I feel comfortable that this has to happen and needs to happen, and I'm familiar with where this is.
and then I did have another concern that I believe as written, the person responsible for maintenance and repair costs for sidewalks and curbs and gutters is the property owner, and that there's a process with that? No?
Usually not.
No, miss.
Because that's not what I've been told in the past, and.
Usually when you have the waterway, that's the township.
that's what I was advised by the road superintendent, that a sidewalk might be a different issue, but as far as the curb and gutter, that was gonna be the responsibility of the road crew.
I believe I read in the past, and again, because this issue came up with complaints of the curb and gutter and Cumberland Trail. I'm not sure if those were addressed or not.
What was the resolve?
I don't know, you were over the roads. Johnson took over the roads and you were over the information has not been provided to me, and a lot of this, I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about or what situation you seem to know.
No, but you've been you were a trustee for 4 years prior.
20 years ago.
Right, but haven't you dealt with the same stuff, but
Well,
again, I think we need to make sure we do it properly.
I don't disagree with you, Mr. Evans. If you wanna vote no, just go ahead and vote no.
I can say that we did pay Paul Brown, and I think he's the guy who fixed the culvert on all the roads.
I know that's what
Yeah.
Don said that he had previously
So,
done.
I mean,
And that's probably why he went back to him. He's familiar.
Right.
So I'll call the question. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Good, thanks.
That will save the tow trucks too.
Okay. Old business item A, unless there's a motion to bring it off the table. We will not.
I just have a question why it's on here, because again, you mentioned Robert's rules. 17-8 states that it's tabled until the next regular meeting. If it's not taken up, it dies, so we shouldn't continually have it on this agenda.
Then we're gonna go and move it. You tabled it originally, Mr. Evans. so-
Correct.
Okay, the sheriff's contract expiration. You added this to the agenda, Mr. Evans?
Well, I asked for it on the 3rd, so I guess without any communication to me that I'm dealing with this, What I will say is, I have been in contact with the administrator regarding the sheriff's contract, not just the expiration, but how the deputies are used. I have a concern that we're supplementing the county coverage of us at great expense too. We've approved 4 deputies, cruisers and all that. Violet Township, as you know, is a limited home rule township, so they have to provide their own law director and police, either internally or through contract. They pay in total for the entire year for sheriff's coverage, $127,536.19. That's for the entirety of Violet Township and services. And I'm concerned that we're supposed to get that base coverage plus all this extra, but I'm not seeing this extra, and when I've asked about it, not really getting information, and that,
Let me ask you, when is the contract up?
next year,
At the end of
2025,
At the end of 2025?
correct.
Right, so you have the contract,
So it could be amended.
well, I understand, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, but we talked about this months ago, and I said, well, okay, maybe we need to have a work session on this, but we haven't had a discussion, but I think put together a list of items, rather than debating the whole thing, and I'm not refuting any of your details here tonight or your concerns, but we don't need to take up this whole agenda. Let's put together a list, and if we wanna have a sit-down, either when the administrator comes back, or if you wanna have an open work session with the sheriff, then we should schedule that. That's the way to get things done and keep things moving. Because you'll have the same concerns next week and the week after, so I wanted, you wanted it on here, we've got it on here, you've got concerns. I don't think
They're throwing stuff on in the last meeting to try to appease the blocking of everything.
No, Mr.
There's been
Evans.
no discussion. That's the problem with this, there's been no discussion. I provided the facts, I provided the concern,
Right?
and there's no discussion, no input, no thoughts, no.
Because there are other items, Mr. Evans, and the contract ends next year.
But it can be amended before then, so
Then
you're saying that we're gonna just stick with it for the year and then?
I recommend then you do the homework, take the initiative, and bring an amendment in front of the board.
I've sent
Bring
the
a
information
document.
before I got from, Chad Carlson. That's been provided to the board.
I understand.
But you said send it, I sent it.
We're not gonna continue to argue, we're working with a limited staff now, Mr. Evans. So you've got your point here, you've got the contract, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the contract, Ms.
Yep,
McKee.
I have.
Do you have any comments?
I don't, I mean, we just do what we did before last year.
And there's another deputy coming on, but I think all those things are open for discussion. But I don't know that all that has to be vetted tonight, because we're not gonna make a decision on it.
So I think we should do the work session, because there's a little change, so we can do that at another meeting, so.
And I think that would probably be after the first of the year. Okay, the dental insurance renewal, Mr. Evans, you were dealing with all the dental vision and,
Well, you say I, but that was taken away and Mr. Tino has been dealing with all that. I've been,
quit complaining.
I've been removed from all that. However, I did see that there was a dental insurance renewal, and even Ms. McKee in an email said something about, well, we don't need to, or we cannot increase the rates, we cannot do anything, but it is an increase. So I believe the board needs to approve that increase. We can't just allow it to increase and just move on. That's my contention of, why aren't these things planned? Why do I have to fight for it, and at the last minute, we kind of shove this stuff through? But the dental insurance renewal, it is going up, but we can't change the policy for any elected officials. So are we remaining with that, or are we gonna have split policies, or what are we doing?
What's your recommendation, Mr. Evans?
To approve the renewal with the cost increase at the same benefits.
Okay, then make that motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Wasn't that easy?
Yeah, that's my point. That's how you move things along.
Well, why didn't you put it on last meeting? Why didn't you, why
Because
did
you
it take
walked
the
in
fight
here the last
to
second.
address it?
Just keep complaining. You get stuff done and you still complain. Okay, item C, health insurance and vision insurance. I'll defer to Mr. Evans again.
Well, again, the vision insurance needs to be renewed. It's the same cost, it's locked
Do
in.
you have a motion?
Motion to approve the vision insurance for renewal.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Okay, how about the health insurance now? I think under that you had a discussion you wanted to talk about
Yeah.
the spousal.
Again, it should be more clearly stated on here so trustees and the public know what's we're dealing with. Well, you say you understand, but then you just do it the next meeting too. So, back in 2015, the board passed a renewal of the health insurance policy with the caveat that the spouse, if they have separate health coverage or health coverage available, that there would be charged $400 to bring onto our policy. This was routinely stated by past employees and even our prior fiscal officer didn't bring her spouse over because of it. However, in discussing with our administrator, that was tied to that renewal as it was written. That didn't obligate any of the other policies that were renewed without that policy moving forward. There's been employees that have spouses that want to come over and needed to know, can they, or would there be a charge? We've got employees that want to get married and that have been searching for an answer and it's been delayed. Why it was not put on the last meeting is unconscionable.
Because you walked in here last minute.
People aren't happy
and
about
fucking
it.
whipped out 15 fucking
But
agenda.
in discussions with the administrator, she also believes that it's tied to that policy that to make it clear that this board should at least discuss it, and two, if we feel the need to, make a motion that does not apply to the current policy. So I need to know what the board's thoughts are on this.
What are your thoughts?
You don't want to share your thoughts first?
I'm asking you because you've done the research.
I've put my thoughts in.
You're the one that switched to this insurance company. You know them inside and out, supposedly.
That would pay an additional flat rate of $400 a month, correct?
Correct, and there was also an additional December 1st, 2015 minutes indicating the same thing that was tied to that renewal.
And have we
No.
charged anyone, and how does it apply to children?
It doesn't.
So we put children on the policy and we pay for the premium, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And if the other spouse, no matter what kind of insurance they have, if they have the worst insurance in the world, if they come over, there was a $400 charge, but my contention is that was that 2015 board's action. And again, I'm assuming, I would hope, that you discuss this with the administrator to get information too, but she is, and I can show you a text, that she's in agreement that it's tied together, in her opinion, to the old renewal, that when it renewed again, there wasn't that. And in my mind, we should not penalize the employees for that. Now, I did search and I provided to the board the request from our insurance broker if there's any requirement for the insurance companies that this is implemented, and she said no, it's at the total discretion of the board. Some use it as a cost savings measure, but again, I don't think it's appropriate that we penalize the employees because again, we cover their children, but if there's a spouse, we're going to penalize it. I'd like to make it clear that it is not, and allow this employee to bring over their spouse.
Have we charged anyone in the past?
I could not tell you that.
I'd like to know that, and I agree, I think we need to treat employees fairly, but I think we also need to analyze, I know from my previous experience that many places, there's at least a percentage of the premium that is required by the employee, their spouse. I did have a conversation with the administrator this afternoon, single plans versus family plans. And
Yes.
and I also talked to the administrator that said that it was not required or necessary to make a decision necessarily at this meeting. I think you've described it correctly in my conversations with her. But that could be something that we might want to look at our total reimbursement policy as it relates to insurance.
Well, I'm a little disappointed that you only talked to her this morning about this. I've been sending information about this well before the December 3rd meeting. And this is a time critical situation because the employee's spouse has open enrollment, and if it's not already missed, they're about to within days. So again, delay for delay's sake, you had all this information, if you needed more. Not ours, theirs. This affects the employee's spouse. So at her employment, she's gotta make the decision, and that's why I didn't wanna.
We have not turned anybody.
Ever?
Not since I've been.
Well, no, not since you've been here, I understand that. However,
Never.
to delay again, when you knew the information we needed, you knew that this could have been, if you had questions, you could have gotten those
Ms.
answers
McKee,
and
do you
dealt
have
with it
any,
now.
what are your thoughts?
Well, I know that when Julie, our previous fiscal officer, did try to add her husband on, and there was an issue. I'm not sure how much this is gonna cost the township, in the long run. I have a concern there, because the fact that, you know, we are spending a lot of money, on some things that we wanna do in the township, so I personally don't want to move forward until we get more information to understand it better. You're talking to the administrator, sounds like Mr. Burkholder, and it sounds like Mr. Evans. I have not had that conversation with her.
Okay.
My question is, why haven't you? And this is important to serve our
Okay,
employees.
Mr. Evans,
Well, I
if
haven't
you're,
had that conversation with her. She's off on leave, and I did not want to bother her. right
Mr.
now.
Evans, you can make a motion or you can
Yeah.
table it.
As recommended by the administrator, I move to formally state that the prior 2015 policy, having employees pay $400 per month for spousal coverage when they have the option of an outside coverage, is not applicable.
Is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion? Motion fails for lack of second.
I'm sorry, guys. And that's to the road crew.
Item D. Prosecutor's opinion and authorization. Mr. Evans?
Oh, you want aren't you working with the administrator, as she stated, in getting these opinions that are long overdue, I think over 2 months, that are needed?
Yes, she said before she had to go on medical leave, she was going to put together an overview of it, so
So you haven't done that?
we've asked,
In her absence?
no, I didn't support this. You have an omnibus, you have all 5 in a single resolution.
I did, which was turned down.
That's right, it was turned down. So do you have something specific you want? This is the item you
Oh,
want.
so, okay.
Did you provide anything, this last thing, for when you were requested that you wanted?
Again, I requested these for December 3rd. You added these, not telling me that, okay, these are the things that you wanted, not the things that you're gonna put in, which sometimes you do. But again, this is what's needed for Mr. Hansen's, all the public records requests, or some of them, to be addressed. And again, we're delaying all the issues in it that are required to go through the prosecutor. Again, Mr. Burkholder, you seem to be picking and choosing of what you're responsible for, what you're not. You sent out an email saying, I'm the supervisor of the administrator, and I'm doing this, and so you're taking over all those actions, but then when you don't do them, you want to push them on to somebody else.
Do you have a motion? You've got the list of what you want. Do you want to make a motion or not?
We need a resolution. So
You had a
resolution
resolution.
is not a motion.
You had a resolution. Where is it? You previously put a resolution forward. We're revisiting it. Where's the
Okay.
resolution?
Again, so
You have a motion, yes or no?
you want, do you want to do the resolution just from memory on the old one?
No resolution, we'll move on to item E, reassign duties, another thing you requested,
You-
Mr.
you
Evans.
just-
You have an email, I read it earlier, that's your reassigning of duties. Go ahead, take your
But
3
you,
minutes
but
and
you know,
hash.
okay, but you know
You have a
what,
motion on the
but you know
reassign.
what's interesting? I asked the administrative assistant what it's about, no clue. I asked the administrator, no clue, but you expect me to have a clue that that's what I had previously requested in
You sent-
November,
you sent the
that you
email.
added to this.
You-
So I'm very confused about your continued lack of communication.
Item F, you obviously don't have a motion, so item F, discussion on zoning enforcement and the zoning department. I didn't want to put this on here, Mr. Evans, because I saw your despicable behavior. You don't even have all the facts regarding the zoning commission, and to treat people,
Zoning
now you be quiet for a minute, that barely get paid anything and volunteer their time and work hard. You cherry pick the minutes, well, I saw this and I saw that, and I'm gonna make an indictment, and you lied. You don't even have the facts straight, and then to treat them like that, it was despicable. I observed your behavior there. It was intimidating, it was harassing. You call people liars, oh, I've got you, I caught you, you wouldn't, I'm telling you why that no one wants to meet with you one-on-one. They don't feel safe with you, they don't trust you.
No,
You
no.
record things, you record executive sessions, you demand access to the cameras here. It's your behavior, Mr. Evans. So you'll have your 3 minutes on this.
Okay,
Repeat everything
no.
you've said before 1,000,000 times.
Number one,
Yep,
this discussion is on zoning enforcement and zoning department.
Yeah.
It's not mentioned zoning commission, which you just went on a
well, I'm
tirade
sure
about.
you
So
talked
this is
about
my
it for
time,
3
this is
minutes.
my time.
Go ahead, I'll give you 3.
But, I am concerned, and I've discussed this, with our zoning inspector, that old cases are just closed. There really needs to be a full review of them. They're not cured. Same issues are coming up. I let him know that, and so that's gotta be, through there. But again, you're over the department right now, and you're not ensuring this. There's no oversight whatsoever, and residents continue to negatively be affected. But if you wanna drag into the zoning commission thing is,
No, I don't.
that, you said, you brought it up.
You brought up.
My issue, along with Mr. Olson's and Mr. Holloway's, it's not Mark, it's not Mr. Evans, it's many that the law is not being followed. It's very simple. I've even sent flow charts, but it's willfully being ignored while someone just smiles and smirks, and it's still not. There was a claim that was forwarded to the trustees. I asked for that, didn't get it. I got copies of minutes, but nothing that was forwarded, nothing in the text in that. And if you talk about minutes, you even stated that, oh, the trustee board will take it up on November 19th, and we'll talk to the prosecutor. Apparently, you still don't understand the process, which you didn't understand in the beginning of the year, of how simply after 5 days of motion, resolution, or property owner, that it gets conveyed. And again, Mr. Holloway sent in a concern about it, and Ms. McIntyre responded in an inappropriate way to he and I's concern that the law be followed. This is stuff that needs to be handled, which isn't. He's really, because we had a lawsuit about substantial. There was over 80% variance, and we're talking about 25%. Liberty Township did it through the process easily. For some reason, we can't, we won't, and there's no oversight, and the person that's in charge of oversight doesn't even know the process.
Well,
Again, it appears that you were never even trustee before.
Okay, well, you can beat on me all you want, because I'm gonna stay focused on getting stuff done for the, and I'll explain what happened there. I was at that meeting. And that came up very quickly about that substantial thing, and in fact, I reviewed it today, what Mr. Holloway said, and he was right. They voted to move it to the trustees, but there wasn't text available. So when you complained and said, well, that should have gone to Licking County Planning right away, well, the reason it didn't go is because there wasn't anything to send you.
Of Mr. Olson, so there was text, and It's not, they pass a motion and then when they get the stuff together,
I can tell you
it's
that
upon
the
motion.
zoning department is gonna be meeting with Mr. Olson to make sure we have it properly, and my recommendation is we not have to have a resolution, but to expedite it to get it through. So, there we go.
Well, Mr. Holloway is suggesting a resolution because
Well, that's the other
the
way
zoning
to do it.
commission is not handling it properly. And I won't say zoning commission, the chair of the zoning commission,
Well-
because that's who I've been trying to address with this from the beginning of the year, and she's refused.
Well,
even
I
through
would
email.
refuse too because of your behavior.
No, Mr. Burkholder, you're the one that ran out of here when McKee called the sheriff. on
Mr.
you.
President, I'm going to ask for a point of order. This is a lot of discussion without a motion on the table.
There's
Can we move
no-
forward?
He's right, he's correct.
But
Extension.
nobody wants to hear the truth.
I'll make a motion to, item G, I'll make a, and he is correct, and thank you, sir. I'll make a motion to extend the township's in-house planning and zoning consultant contract for another 90 days with Schultz and Associates. That would be at $80 per hour, and that's 24 hours per week. The reason I say that is there a second to the motion first for discussion?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, for discussion, I talked to the administrator and, we had talked about hiring a full-time person and advertising for that at the first of the year. But given the current situation, she has recommended that we extend our current zoning consultant's contract for 90 days so that we can cover that period. And I do know firsthand, Mr. Evans, I'm in this office sometimes it's 6, 8 hours, 2 hours. I have been working with the zoning department. We're reviewing, and you were at the meeting, Mr. Evans, on all that detailed report about the modification to the PMUD. That was done with cooperation with Mr. Schultz and our zoning inspector and working with the client that requested that so that we have the proper procedures being followed. There are a lot of technical review meetings on in-process development, walkthroughs on things that are being completed, and we need the expertise and staffing to make that work. And do you have any comments, Ms. McGee?
I do. Again, we have this urgent action that's needed. We've known this position was needed to be filled for the entire year. The board actually approved the position with the zoning inspector position that Mr. Burkholder withheld on his own. The board approved it, but he withheld on his own, publicizing it and seeking it early this year. I think it was February or March. Now we're told what was going to end in December, we need 90 more days, but we'll fill the position in-house and save money
I
because.
didn't say we
No,
filled the
it's
position in-house. I didn't say that.
Did you say January 1st that we'll advertise and but this is my time. And if you're not willing to advertise and fill the position in-house, what are we gonna have a consultant that again is, and this is how consultants work, $80 an hour, administrators making 75, 76 an hour. If this was accompanied with a position to post, to interview, to fill, and it was time, that we could timely fill it, I'd be supportive. However, this is another measure, last minute of do nothing until, oh my God, we need to do something. And it's just mismanagement that I cannot continue to support. We need the support, but we need in-house. For the cost of a 3-day-a-week consultant, we could have a full-time employee here plus. I just don't get it. And again, all the excuses of, oh, we're understaffed, we have consultants, we have attorneys, this could be addressed simply, and we tried to address it at the beginning of the year, and it wasn't. So I will be voting no.
That's fine, Mr. Evans, but you did talk to the administrator regarding this, correct?
I did.
And what did she tell you? What was her recommendation?
To do it, because what she said is we need to do what we need to do. However, that's been the mantra with the budget that I tried to bring up in June, and again, you lied about saying, no, I didn't.
You're off topic.
And no, but it's the pattern of you know, not doing it and putting it up, so.
Yeah, I think, roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
No.
What are we gonna do now?
Why you're saying that's a good question, Mr. Evans, you voted no too.
No.
What are you gonna do now?
I never voted
Why
for
is
him from the
everybody looking at me,
beginning.
when you blame me
I
and
never
say
voted
I am
for
the
him
problem,
from the beginning.
why are you two looking at me?
Because you voted for it the first time.
What is
And you
your,
voted for it, but I didn't.
what is your solution then? I wanna hear this, cause I have one, but go ahead.
What's your solution?
I wanna hear what you guys, why is it, why would you want to hear from me if I'm the big bad guy and I don't know what I'm doing?
You put this
What
township,
is your
you put this
suggestion?
township at jeopardy. We're gonna move on. You voted no. I agree with the point of order. High Point Park application. I'll move that we authorize the township administrator to go ahead and submit an application to the Lincoln County Park District for the High Point, application for High Point Park here. So moved. Second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes?
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes, thank you. I, gas furnace. Good news, you have a proposal, for replacement of this small furnace. We got the major furnace, repaired, it replaced actually, and so that worked out well, and it heated the office side while this one was out. The reason I sent out the replacement proposal is because I wanted to have it on the agenda, but we were still working with the technician, yesterday afternoon, and, the furnace is old. The blower is not seized up, but the capacitor was damaged, and so that was causing some of the problem and the furnace to shut down. The heat exchanger is not in great shape. It was like $250 to get it repaired, but he said right now I would not replace that furnace at $4,000. Plus we had about $2,600 that we put in the coil this last summer. So that's the good news. Mr. Evans, I wish you would have taken serious the appointment to maintain the building, which you did not, which was voted on by Ms. McKee and Mr. Johnston. So when you say I don't do anything and nothing happens, we get things done here. We had 22-degree weather. We had to get the furnace. You voted against the replacement of the furnace, correct? Is that correct? Yeah, you did.
For the emergency, but again, can I speak on this? Because this apparently, and I didn't know until long after, this furnace went out 3 days after the other one. The first one was an emergency,
Yeah.
but the second one was an emergency. Kind of confusing on that. But even then, how many days have you had to get more than one estimate? Can't we check to make sure that we're getting the best value, that, contractors not watching these meetings, not saying that they are, that, oh, they're not getting any estimates, I can bump that up a little bit, or I don't have to be competitive, or,
Okay.
Isn't it a legitimate question of why? No, but again, you have had that, and I don't know how I'm supposed to deal with the maintenance of a furnace when you said you've had this company in, checking all this stuff, checking it.
About CODA?
No, I thought we're talking about
We talked about
this.
this.
Don't we have to take a vote?
You said it at the last meeting, what, on the done? I've got up to $1,000, I've already authorized the repair, it was like $250, so it's already done.
So then why is it on here?
Because at the time, I sent out what a replacement would be, and it was subsequent to that, so that we had it on here. So I had to explain tonight, or you would have been saying, why is it on here?
So you know what would be appropriate is to include, this is what I received, these are the actions taken, this is the relevant information. That's called good administration and management.
Okay,
Also
you
communication.
have the floor for CODA, Mr. Evans, go ahead and deliver your rant.
No, it's not a rant. Just as Mr. Bundy stated,
It's campaign.
that he wanted to voice his opinion that he's against it. Now, shouldn't we afford the public the opportunity to state this. What one individual stated was, in the 2 pages of the minutes, it was just briefly mentioned. Well, there was a lot of stuff, but what was critical is other ongoing projects include collaboration with CODA to expand transit services into Licking County. That's an important statement. Now, it doesn't matter that there's not additional information or they didn't go in depth. That is critical to show that Mr. Burkholder is working in collaboration as the board president without any board input, without letting the public know. And I've actually tried to get a discussion on this, and it was shut down way back when. So why do I have to look through a zoning commission minutes to see that there's what kind of collaboration is going on, Mr. Burkholder, that there's no discussion, no board authority or anything like that?
You want me to answer the question?
Yes.
I'm more than happy to. I've been waiting for this moment. First of all, the collaboration, which by the way, you just might, well, no, I'll talk about it first and I'll give you a copy. That's what the audience has. You trashed me all over Facebook, and let's talk about it. I'm going to take a little bit of latitude. When I ran, I made a promise. One of my top things was to return civility and professionalism to this board. So, Mr. Evans, you can quote the 300 and some days that, well, you haven't done anything, Gary. Well, there's a lot of people in this community know that I haven't worked hard to stay focused on the project and do the right thing and to have a civil, professional discussion in these meetings. For over 1,000 days, Mr. Evans, you have done nothing but create chaos and conflict. You supported me saying, hey, Gary, we're going to bring civility. You were out there on the campaign trail. Civility, professionalism. And you
betrayed us.
And you betrayed us. And it's evidenced by your behavior. So you won't see me on Facebook a lot trashing people or anything else. A lot of times you want to have that argument and stuff, but I try to stay away from that. But there comes a point. There comes a point. Yeah, this is the point, Mr. Evans. There comes a point that you have to refute the absolute nonsense out there. The collaboration that I delivered, that explanation, and I was given an overview of all the projects going on within the township, is the collaboration, and what it is it's a workforce program, transit workforce program by the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, the Licking County Commissioners, the Columbus Partnership, Franklin County, the City of Columbus, and Matthew, you said it right, it's to get workers out here, not just workers, and this collaboration is between Licking County Transit Authority and between CODA, and it's not just bus service, it's also sidewalks, it's mobility, which by the way, you recently, Mr. Evans, ranted about how you wanted to get active transportation planning out here. I actually brought you that proposal before I was a trustee. So this is a comprehensive program. But to accuse me that I collaborated behind the scenes and I made all the decisions is an absolute falsehood. Our former administrator back in January 16th of 2024 sent you an email. Please see the Central Ohio Workforce Transit Plan Steering Committee meeting that she attended, and that was back in January of 2024. I had only been here 16 days. I didn't even know about this. And the fact of the matter, there's an open house. You'll see attached to this packet, there's also dates. I might as well give it to you.
I sent that to the board.
There's also dates in August.
I sent that to the board.
There's also dates in August that I sent to you. There's other dates in February. There was an open house. You actually sent it out to residents about the open house that was in Reynoldsburg on this entire program for public input. So for you to accuse me that I kept something secret, you were aware? Did you do anything about it?
I asked for discussion, it was shut down.
And when was that?
So you're saying I didn't ask for discussion, just like you said I didn't ask for discussion on the budget?
So did
you want me to pull that up?
Was anything done behind the scenes
What I will say
without
is,
the board? No, you said without the board's knowledge.
In November, you're talking about January, in November you said include collaboration with. So you're collaborating with?
No.
But not, so then you weren't truthful?
I was truthful. The collaboration is between Licking County Transit Matt Allison came from Coda and is now working for Licking County. This has been a project that was conceived either in 22 or 23. They had 27 steering meetings, and all those meetings were concluded, I think, like on January 11th of 2024. So don't sit there and accuse me of something that's absolutely false for your own political purpose.
So when I asked for discussion on it and you refuse, again, I asked for a discussion on the budget and you refused, then you lied about it.
Now he's off
and I had to
topic
bring it
again.
up. So it's time and time again, you
We're talking
blocked
about code.
everything, and the zoning commission shouldn't be getting.
Now we're on zoning
I
commission?
asked for it, and you want me to remember the specific one, because I asked, I was almost going to, but I didn't have time, because I had to review
You
the
were
minutes
too
and
busy
stuff.
on the fireboard,
I could create
yeah.
a scroll of all the items I've asked to be addressed.
So you are aware that CODA and this extension of transit out here to get workers to the warehouses, plus mobility, this whole
Not
program.
that we were
you-
working
You were
cooperatively
aware, well,
with,
what
that
do you
you were.
mean, the administrator?
No, you in November. So what update do you have that's what I'm talking about.
I didn't have any update.
Okay. So you're just fluffing what we're doing then? You're just trying to say, look at all the stuff we're doing when we're not doing it? That's even worse.
Have you read the plan?
Yes, I have. I actually read and do due diligence
Okay,
on the
so
matters
why don't you tell us
of
about-
fair.
Why don't you tell us about the work plan in CODA since you say you know about it? You know about it, right?
I know about it, I posted about it, you can go to my Facebook, so, but guess what, the point is, having a discussion here, why wouldn't you want to hear from residents?
We would, there was an open house, you knew about it. Did you do anything about the
Here,
residents?
that was Reynoldsburg, here.
I
Don't
didn't-
deflect,
I didn't do.
You're being very defensive.
I am not. Did you have an open house here, Mr. Evans?
you know, I tried to have an open house on the Pike Street, if you recall when Ms. McKee blocked that. Do I have to do that for CODA? There's moans and groans, but that had to be done.
Let's have a workshop on the budget.
And you know what? At one time, Mr. Burkholder was against all the things Ms. McKee was doing.
Sealing the bridge.
Not now.
Okay, very good.
Oh,
Well, the
and
fact of the
yellow.
matter is, I did not collude or cooperate, I reported, I found the emails, there's numerous emails, Mr. Evans knew about it, and quite frankly, it's a falsehood to say that I was doing something behind the board's back, that's the bottom line.
But it's even worse that you're trying to make it seem like you're doing stuff that you're not doing. So what is it? Are we doing it, or are you fluffing to make it seem like we're doing stuff when we're not getting anything through?
It's obvious who wants to engage in personal attacks on a recurring basis. Okay, well, that's, fiscal officer's report.
I have some purchase orders, and we're paying all the zoning and PGA.
Is there a motion? Resolution 2024-066. I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I had a question. Why are they individually listed instead of just group for? Okay. And then for the, paying to have the, traveling, fiscal officer, do this, didn't we actually approve up to 5,000 something, or why is it only the 3360? That was the initial amount, then if it up to, but the full resolution was up to, wouldn't you wanna PO for that up to part?
Well, I figured just do the 80 hours because we're at the end of the year, we're gonna have to rewrite POs for next year.
Okay, and then, I don't think you meant to put a factorial in here, the exclamation point, but for Adam Kelly, it's
Oh my gosh,
exclamation
made a
point 100.
Fire.
Oh, just the thing.
Fuck up on that kid.
Anything else?
Is
Ms.
that,
McKee?
should that be corrected?
No, I don't have anything on it.
Should we approve it as corrected for
Yeah,
that?
we're gonna approve it.
It should be 1,100?
1,100.
Okay. And I asked,
It's just transferred over that way.
okay, and I asked for just the logs, just to make sure everybody's paid properly, nothing missed.
I
or
said that
anything.
we
Oh, did you, okay, during the meeting?
Nope,
No,
this afternoon.
Okay.
Wow.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Is there a motion to ratify the payment of the bills as shown on the payment list? So moved by Ms. McKee, I'll second. Discussion?
I do have a question on the payments to the BZA and the commission. Is that supposed to be by 1099 or are they considered employees?
1099.
Okay. Is that what you do or in your
Yes.
township?
You hear me? We don't have such a thing as.
Oh, okay.
Roll call, please. Sorry.
Slow down, slow down.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Public comments at this time,
Hey,
too?
I'm not done.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to cut you short.
Sorry. I need to transfer 85,000.
Yeah. The 85,000?
Yeah. Transfer 85,000 from the ARPA fund to the general fund, the bank account.
Yep.
I need a motion to transfer.
Is there a motion
I'll make the motion.
as stated? Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Roll call.
But,
Mr.
well, I had discussion. I just had a question. Why isn't this presented with the account numbers in writing and why are we doing this verbally? Usually transfers, it's good to have a document so we can review.
It's to you again, but it's a bank normally. It's just either go through or go.
Right here.
Roll call.
Mr. Evans? Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Beginning of the fucking meeting.
Anything
You
else?
obviously wasn't here,
The bank balance at the end of November
dumb motherfucker.
is 8.743 million. Outstanding payments is 661. We paid out 795. We received $74,787.16 at the end of November.
How many times did we hear Julie Berrien do that?
And you'll have the statement.
Zip. Big boy.
Appropriation summaries and fund summary and. That's it.
Public comments, 2 minutes. Please come to the podium. State your name and address.
You're welcome.
Matthew Westberg, I've not moved during the meeting, 46 year Park Boulevard. In the Christmas spirit, I want to story time to everyone here. Reading from the minutes from the meeting, Madam Kelly inquired about the progression of the wastewater plant project. Gary responded that the wagon plant's expected to be operational by late 2025. The Gary Road plant is also undergoing expansion, which is critical supporting local development. Both plants play a significant role in accommodating the area's growth. Gary Burkholder mentioned the district is expanding its governance by adding a new board member, including Jersey Township, referencing the water board. Additionally, the Middle Ohio Planning Commission, MORPC, has initiated a 14-county study to better coordinate water and sewer systems. Other ongoing projects include tabulation with CODA. Now, as I read that, that says that MORPC is doing that collaboration. It does not say this board, because Gary is speaking to that. Am I incorrect in that? I feel
You're correct.
yeah, and it goes on to say, and this is where I draw that from, that collaboration with CODA to expand transit needs in Licking County and efforts to address staffing needs such as hiring new Licking County administrator and recruiting a planning director. That does not sound like this board, so that he had to be referencing the MORPC board. So why did we just waste 15 minutes of our lives
Listening to
going
you.
over something that is black and white, plain as day, for someone who barely finished high school English? Have a great Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
I'm a
He
dumb
just
dude.
admitted that was us.
Anybody else? At this time, 2 minutes? Very good.
I'm not allowed. Yes.
Our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 7th, 2025,
Why you
6
gonna put
p.m.
it in parcel?
We'll have a reorganization meeting where we will reorganize the board. and then we'll have a regular meeting after that. We do have open board of zoning appeals and zoning commission, one seat each that are coming up. And we'll be making those appointments in the new year as well. My understanding, there may be openings on the Tax Incentive Review Council. We want to see how many seats that are on that. I've contacted the head of the Turk in the county. Haven't heard back on all the details on that, but that'll be after the first of the year as well. And I'll be reporting that to the board. That's all as far as my comments. Ms. McKee, do you have anything?
Yeah, I wanted to address the board and actually the residents as well. Mr. Evans continually to say that I called the sheriff on Mr. Burkholder. I just want to make it clear, I was the chair, and at the time when I was the chair, I had a meeting with Morpsey. Morpsey comes out to the townships around the counties, all over Ohio, and they meet with the chair of the board. It is not a public meeting. Obviously, Mr. Evans told Mr. Burkholder, at the time, Mr. Burkholder was not on the board. He was a resident. Told him it was a public meeting, one of his lies. So Mr. Burkholder was here thinking that it was a public meeting. So I did have the sheriff, because our sheriff is always in this area, so I asked him to come in and ask Mr. Burkholder to leave, that it wasn't a public meeting. Mr. Burkholder left. It was not a problem. But Mark Evans continues to bring that up, and I want to make it clear that it was brought, and Mr. Burkholder, now that he is a chair, he has met that same expectation with Morpsey. They came out and met with you. Is that true, Mr. Burkholder? And it was not a public meeting. He met with the board of Morpsey. They came out and met with him, and I think it was back in July maybe, or June.
It's been a long time ago.
Yeah, so just to be clear, it's not a public meeting, so I want to make that clear. The second thing I want to address is Mr. Evans continuing to attack our fiscal officer on Facebook, and also Letitia, our chair of the zoning board as well. If you recall our last temporary budget meeting that we had a week or so ago, he mentioned Julie, the previous fiscal officer, over 7 times. Mr. Evans is very clear that he knows the UAN, because he has been in the UAN, and that's very questionable why he was in UAN. Now, we do have reading rights, any of us on this board, but he continued to badmouth Jackie. It's embarrassing that you continue to intimidate, bully the women. You've done it to me for over 2 years, and you're doing it to Jackie now, our fiscal officer, and you also have done it to Letitia McIntyre. I'm going to ask Mr. Evans to refrain from going on Facebook and saying things that are not true. I do not address this board much in regards to Mr. Evans' lies, because he tells so many. I wouldn't get the township business done. So tonight I'm going to address it, and that's why I'm bringing this up tonight. So I'm going to ask you to please. Second thing I want to bring up is the fact that, or third thing is, I have put several people on boards, township boards, for instance, our JED boards. All the people that we put on those boards are professional. They were well qualified. They were not my friends. They were not somebody I met down at the bar to hang out with. Okay, these were professional people that are on these boards that are well qualified. They were not my friends that I meet down at Cousins or wherever. Okay, so I want to make that clear. So I feel good that we did put the right people on these boards. Mark Evans removed a few of them because it was personal. He continues to attack people personally. And I would ask Mr. Evans to please stop attacking your colleagues. We are here to have meetings for the township, to get the business of our township done. We don't want to fight and argue. We want to get things done. And I appreciate Mr. Burkholder being the chair of the board, and that he has brought some stability. He's moving things along. He only can do so much when you got somebody constantly fights, constantly wants to bicker, constantly is on Facebook with all the bad people. But he's always right about everything. So that's all I have to say.
Do you want to trade positions, maybe?
No, thank you.
We'll do. You ran on it.
I did it for 2 years, and I took all the beatings that Mr. Burkholder's taken now. I did it for 2 years.
Well, like I said, what I say I can prove, and Mr. Burkholder, Ms. McKee's been proven to lie quite a few times regarding that incident. It was a public meeting. What Ms. McKee failed to say is, Mr. Johnson and myself were also there, which made it a public meeting. And that's why Mr. Burkholder was there. That was the one, back when he cared about what was right and what was done should follow the law. And you actually said, Ms. McKee, I felt threatened and called the sheriff. So now your story's changing, and you know what? That was the same meeting where you screamed at me I'm the devil and that, so we'll see who's telling the truth here. But that was no doubt a public meeting, but again, instead of standing up for what's right, Mr. Burkholder ran out of here, and just, instead of standing up. Regarding the fiscal officer, what I have an issue with is she lied when the employees didn't get paid. She said that it was the bank's error, and without me speaking to the bank employees, we would have known it was hers. People make mistakes, but they don't lie, especially somebody that has millions of dollars accessible to them should have more integrity. I mean, we go back to her withholding bank statements from the board. I'm on the fire board. I get at Ms. Coutinho, please. And Mr. Burkholder and staff can attest to this. Ms. Coutinho offered to have a document notarized illegally out of sight of the notary. That is just unconscionable, and everybody was shaking their heads like, what, you offered that twice in front of two different people.
Yes,
And
when it comes here,
no. You said take to them. Take to my relative. I won't say who. But we were all shocked. But that's my problem with the lack of integrity. And then regarding the zoning commission chair, she's not following the law. She has not followed the law all year. And it's not just me saying it. It's Dave Olson. It's Steve Holloway. So this isn't Big Bad Mark. This is the law. It's not a suggestion. But we talked about getting things done in that. Back in March, the employee handbook, which is full of errors, that Ms. McKee refused to even provide it to me as a trustee until I think the Friday before, and threatened if I provided it to our fiscal officer, she would claim attorney-client privilege and file a complaint, and that's not working together. That's not doing anything. That's open meeting violations, which Mr. Burkholder used to be against. The union contract was an open meeting violation. And when we talk about the individual that's just making things up on Facebook about my photos and pretending I make calls and stuff like that.
I don't know what your problem is.
I mean, it's just ridiculous what is going on here in this township, and people are sick of it. And you know what? During that cookie walk, I heard from the people.
I did too. And
They are tired of this nonsense.
They don't want
And there
to-
was a question, I think you brought it up, that I had an issue before the administrator was hired. Do you know why? Because it was an illegally advertised special meeting was done at. She didn't apply, as far as I know, and was given through the required process of submitting a resume. The resume was dated after she was hired.
So that's your grounds of sabotage.
And, no, it's called doing the right thing and holding people accountable. And I've been the only one up here doing so, even tonight, not addressing the employee issue. That is shameful in a timely manner. Obviously, you don't talk to the employees because they're not happy. This is a real concern. And even if we go back to, remember the Walter Rogers $15,000 reimbursement for the Medicare that he wasn't supposed to get? You dropped that. You dropped everything. You're holding nobody accountable. Your day one promise, yes, I campaigned for you based on what you said, but you broke all these promises. And I found out before you even took your seat, you were planning to break your promise. So I can't help that you're not honest. And talk to any of the Lindsboro people that you lied to directly. And the reason the people aren't here is because they get attacked by this group.
What?
It's unfortunate. I mean, I get threats all the time.
Are you talking to me? Because
No,
today.
there's
when I
several-
walked
You
in here,
attacked her
somebody
today.
was having
Several people
holidays,
here
You're
that have
fucking
threatened
dead.
being
In-
arrested.
Merry
including
Christmas.
Ms. McKee, including Stephen Wood, including you.
I did never threaten you.
Yes, you did.
I did not.
Let's
So I'll wrap it up as, we're a year into Mr. Burkholder and 3 years for Ms. McKee, and we can't get anything done. Fire board, totally different story. That's smooth, that's open, that's transparent. We actually deal with things. Unlike here, that is delay. Again, we couldn't make a decision about the employee insurance, more information. That's the same thing we heard about the grant reimbursement for how many months? It's ridiculous.
Well, I guess I'll have a few comments, because I don't wanna,
He'll be out behind the woodshed.
nobody on this board, nobody in this room is perfect.
Nobody wants to be here with him.
We make all mistakes, and Mr. Evans, all I can say to you is, when are you gonna get over it? I mean, you're bringing up something that happened a couple of years ago, regarding that meeting, because you can't let anything go, and
McKee just lied.
let me finish. I let you talk and ramble on. You're constantly on Facebook, day and night. The evidence is you don't see me on Facebook. Now, I may have to put out some of these facts, but I'm not out bashing on people or anyone else. I'm gonna stay focused on the project. I spent more hours this year in this hall than you have, Mr. Evans.
In
And let
3
me
years.
finish.
Not working.
And I've tried, and I've worked with staff to hold things together. We've had a total personnel changeover. You blame me, Mr. Evans, that all the other employees left because of me. That's not true. They left because of you and your harassing behavior, which
Yes.
They
continues.
thought there was gonna be accountability. They could have stayed, there was no accountability.
Well, Mr. Evans, that's just not true. But rather than, so I am sorry I got a little scratchy there back and forth, but, like I said, I'm not perfect, but I've worked very hard and honestly and worked with people and encouraged our staff and had communication. But
Yep.
it's impossible to
100%
work with, Mr. Evans. He doesn't want to work with me. It's a
You don't wanna
constant,
work
it's a
with anybody.
constant campaign,
It's about time.
and, so I'll continue to try to keep these meetings as smooth as possible. There's a lot of people, you know, the whole thing is, you're up here, you may disagree. Obviously, Mrs. McKee and I don't agree on maybe quite a few things, but I'm not gonna bash on her. I think we should have kept the consultant tonight for the good of the township. My colleagues voted differently, and now we'll have to pivot and see what we do. But there won't be any reviews, of some of these TRCs and everything coming in, so I guess I'll have to come back at the first of the year. But that's enough, so I'm sad that during the season where we're supposed to have peace and goodwill, that a few individuals wanna create havoc and chaos, and I can only hope and I guess pray that in the new year, that stops and we move in a different direction. So thank you all.
It's just one last thing.
No,
Nope.
you had your, thank
Nope.
you all for coming.
Nope.
I'm gonna move to adjourn. Is
And
there
I
a second?
apologize to the employees, I tried.
Roll call,
Oh,
please.
fuck you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, everybody. Mr. Evans?
Open Meetings Act, yes. If you're saying stuff, I mean, we should follow the Open Meetings Act.
I'm just wishing everybody a happy holiday.
What
We're
a
adjourned.
fucking.
Mr. Evans?
I said yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
And just so you know, Mr. Burkholder does not act civil in there. I can't say what he says, but he's a different person in executive session.
When are you gonna fix that door, Mark? I'm gonna charge for 2 years.
When you gonna paint the yellow lines out there?
Actually,
We got Light
yes.
Street coming.
When
How about that
the
wet
people
drain?
will use it.
How about diligence? Oh, diligence really working. Click on your
No, I can't, I'm not a single member. I'm a member of a board that is required to go through the process.
So we don't need to be sending cookies to bring them next time. Kids, I take kids.
Whatever you're gonna do. Whole meeting. I sure did. Did you see what I read on Facebook about you guys? No.